Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Women Who Inspires webinar series. I'm Nihal Al-Busaidi, and I'm a part of the MENA Speakers team. Now, basically, this series is an initiative by leading speakers and MC bureaus in the region. And part of MENA Speakers' role is basically to expand or increase the presence of female expert speakers in events all around the world. Now, we chose this particular month to hold this series because it is closer to the 28th of August, which is also known as Emirati Women's Day. So we gathered up amazing, influential, and powerful female speakers to come and share with us their talks and their speeches. Now, we have a very special guest with us today who goes by the name of Hessa Al Ghurair. And she will be talking to us about top trends that will dominate the future of work in a post-COVID-19 world. Now, before I can let her begin, I'd like to mention that there will be a Q&A session at the very end. So you can drop your questions down there in the Q&A tab below. And there will also be an option of a chat box where you can engage with our speaker and interact with her throughout the entire session. Now, without further ado, please help me welcome Hessa. Welcome, Hessa.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum. And I think I should just say Happy New Year or Islamic year. And I know today is technically holiday or beginning of a holiday as Sunday is off. So I won't take long from you guys. I know you would like to spend your time doing probably something else, but I'll make it short, sweet. And you can stop me and ask any question or say anything that you would like to share about COVID-19 experience so far. So are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, sorry, I think my laptop is hungry, but give me a minute.
Okay.
Okay, and Nihal, let me know if you can see.
No, I can't see anything yet.
Okay, لحظة. Sorry, قلت لك أظني لابتوبي يعالج. This just happened. Okay, sorry, getting into it. Sorry, just give me a second. ما أعرف شو استوى.
Maybe refresh the internet. Like you can always.
Okay. إنزين لحظة. Now you cannot see it, صح?
Yeah, I can't see it. So.
Okay, دقيقة.
What do you?
Okay, now. Let me share screen. And yes.
Okay, perfect.
Here we go. Here we go. Shukran. Shukran for your patience.
No problem.
Okay, my name is Hessa, as Nihal just introduced me. And all what I would like to talk about today is the pandemic. As the pandemic continued to surge across the world, it impacted so many industries. Speaking of business operation, supply chain, and broader economics. And I believe everyone continues to ask one question, and I'm sure all of you ask the same question. When will things go back to normal? Do you think things will go back to normal? Yes, no, some people says yes, we'll go back. Do you think we'll go back to working from 9 to 5 or 9 to 9? Remember those old days when we used to go to office at sunrise and leave at sunset? Like so many questions we have in mind. But the thing that I would like to address today, what is the real normal? And how can we build back better? This is really interesting. Okay, forget about what you actually see. You might relate to. These are the things, the memes we've seen on social media channels started from January. And some people actually predicted how the second quarter of the second half of 2020 will look like. What basically September says here is all about alien invasion. Now, these are quite funny if you look at it. However, we still can relate. We've seen a lot of things from starting January 2020 till now. We've seen the rising geographical tension, the trade war, the climate catastrophes, and also pandemic. The last was the boiling civil movement wars in the West. Now, this is really interesting when we look at the memes on social media channels. It actually gives us a glimpse of people's sentiment, needs, culture, and also environment. However, they end to be relatable at the end of the day. I hope the alien invasion is not really going to happen next month. Couple of my friends expecting their birthday parties, not with aliens, I'm sure. On a more serious note, I'm talking about the impact of the pandemic. We all can relate to that back probably Jan and Feb, when the whole world watched in disbelief the spread of COVID-19 across the world. We actually disbelieve the whole thing, and we assume that it's not there, it's somewhere else. It'll end by the time it reaches this part of the world. However, according to Deloitte, by March 2020, more than 1/3 of humanity was in lockdown. On another note, by the end of April 2020, 1.9 billion workers stood in immediate danger of losing their livelihood, of having their livelihood destroyed. Now it says a lot from the very beginning of us not really believing that something like this is actually happening, and it is the first time we see it, and then really happening and living the lockdown. And I'm sure we all remember those 3 months that we were at a lockdown. Do you remember it? Do you remember all the shopping online? Probably in the beginning we were in denial, and at the end we started to get used to it. I remember a joke by one of the famous singers who said, "I didn't know that I have a 10th son till the lockdown actually happened." This says a lot about the madness that we used to live prior to COVID-19. Again, the long working hours, not being able to be at home to have 3 meals, for instance, being part of the family events when needed due to the work pressure. The lockdown taught us a lot. However, the IMF says that the global economy will shrink by 3% this year, and it describes it as the worst since the Great Depression in the 1930s. However, they also said that it's expected a global growth to rise to 5.8% next year if the pandemic fades in the second half of 2020. So, inshallah, looking forward for that. Moving to the main question, how can we go back to normal? What does normal look like? I mean, so many questions. I believe even your children, spouses, they're all asking. And I think mainly children are asking, when are we going back to normal? Back to normal is still VUCA, I would call it, for now. It all depends on so many factors. I'm only here displaying 4 factors just to look at it from a macro kind of level. So first of all is the trajectory of the pandemic. We all hear nowadays of the third wave in Asia. How will it look like? Again, so many question marks around it. Pace of lockdown, airport restrictions, travel, the quarantine, going forward, traveling across borders, how does it really look like? It's still there. Rate of business opening, looking today in Dubai, for instance, the hotel and restaurant, they still operate at 30% capacity. How long would that continue till we reach 100%? With especially having in mind the social distancing and the way forward of ensuring that we have adequate place to protect everybody. Last but not least, the speed of consumer confidence, gaining their confidence again, and then rebound onto the buying demand. And we all have seen a shift when it comes to the buying demand during the lockdown. Things have changed, and I believe even the consumer demand changed. So some shops or some industries had to shift to accommodate what is really required. For instance, having vegetable and fruit delivered. Most of the people used to go out and buy it. Actually, they check them. What they want to buy now, you just order online and it comes. Again, a lot of things have changed, and it all goes back to the consumer behavior. These are only few factors that I'm touching upon today. But again, these all will dictate the length and severity of pressure to put on business, economy, recovery, and global workforce. Now, let's not forget one important point, that government officials, doctors, and scientists alike warned all of us and made it very clear that it is very early to welcome being the end of COVID-19. Vaccine is still a long way off. I mean, we've heard a lot, the Russian vaccine, the US vaccine, the China also vaccine. So a lot of things are being tested, but yet, is this the beginning? Are we ready? The only thing I can see here that we still have to wait for things to go back to normal. Now, keeping that in mind and going back to the same question, what is the new normal? How can we all build it back better, knowing that we've lived the pandemic and things have changed around us? Literally, everything has changed, and I'm sure all of you have seen it. From shopping to the way we meet our friends, neighbors, and even within our own family. I remember Ramadan Eid. It was the first time that we actually started connecting through like virtually with all members of the family and not handing over Eidiyah. This is quite strange. We've never seen it happening before. It even felt strange. Like, this Eid is really different. It feels different. However, safety comes first. So the whole thing is different. And the way we start thinking about our own safety even is different. The thing that I would like to touch upon today is talking about business and human capital. We've seen things have accelerated during the last couple of months due to COVID-19. And I truly believe there are trends that will lead going forward. I would like to speak about, to touch upon four trends that I believe will dominate the future of work, creating everlasting change. To begin with, I start in the beginning talking about working in the office from 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, long working hours, endless, even during the weekend. Since the pandemic, we've started seeing more fluid workplace, which means working from home became a necessity, or working remotely became a necessity, no longer an option. We are aware of entities that they used to use biometric fingerprints to check in and check out. This is how strict they were when it comes to employees' attendance. It took them COVID-19 to actually start acting in a different way and saying, yes, I accept to change, and ensuring that my employees are safe and they can operate remotely from any part of the world, not really being at home, but being anywhere as long as they are safe and they can produce the work in a better quality than it used to be. Now, going back to working remotely, we all know that employees are being affected by the pandemic. If we speak about the workplace today, as an employee, I need a safe place to be. If they call me back to office, I need to make sure that my safety is first and coming first. Social distancing is there. Employees are being tested. People I'm going to deal with. Now, besides that, I will have to put on my mask for 7 hours. So how much really physical footprint do companies need today? Do we need 100% or 20% only? There was a survey initiated by Forbes, and they've reached out to CFOs across different companies, asking them what are the learnings from the whole lockdown and what happened recently. They came back saying they would like to move to a permanent shift to working remotely, as there is a huge cost saving that would result for a huge cost saving for employees and for employer as well. Now remember, for employees, we spent time and money on fuel, you can name it, besides the traffic and all the tension and headache we get from traffic. So mostly people on an average would take 2 hours going back to office and back home. Again, ensuring that we work from home on probably partially basis still help to eliminate all that pressure that affect our well-being, and ensuring that there is a cost saving for employer and employees. Speaking of the future workplace, will have to be varied, flexible, and adaptable. Even the careers will have to be flexible. The future workplace will be a blend between physical and digital. So 10% probably in the office and the rest working remotely or vice versa. Now that will have an impact on the space that they have leased as well. Do I still need a building of 10-story to accommodate my employees, or one floor with hot seats? So many business cases are being discussed on what's best and how can we continue as we keep adapting to the new changes or the new way of working. On another hand, there was a survey conducted by IBM, and 80% of their population came back saying they would love to continue working remotely. That again says a lot about staying safe, probably at home, and being able to give more to the organization. What I've noticed for myself, being more comfortable at home, give me that boost that I can give more. The quality of my work, I truly believe, have changed completely. However, I still miss my team and being around those people that I used to say good morning to, having coffee with. Things have changed. The last point, seeing the organization way of hiring have shifted from focusing on the future trend of skills, what kind of skills that they would require to hire for the future, and be very specific. Remember those days when they used to interview a person and say, oh, this person is not meeting the minimum requirement of set of skills that we have in place. These things have shifted to being more responsive. I need a workforce who can adapt to the new changes and be able to bounce back and bounce correctly, trying to make the right changes accordingly. That's what I need going forward. And this is applicable for all industries. So question to human resources. Will you start hiring differently, looking at job descriptions and the set of skills that you have embedded probably 20 years ago differently? The answer is yes. It's a must that we all change, and we change for the best. Speaking about working from home and the working hours and everything, Nihal, I have a question here for the audience.
Yes, sure. What would you like to?
Well, basically the question is, working when we were during the lockdown or even now, working remotely, does it mean that I'm into comfortable clothes, or still suits and like official clothes? Which one? Were it comfortable or official?
So you're asking this towards the audience, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, so let's see some. Anna, I personally, I'm wearing my most comfortable clothes from home.
Yes. And I think this is, I don't know if anybody answered.
Yeah, Floyd so far has answered. He has responded with most comfortable for me.
Yeah, most comfortable. And I believe we've seen those videos of people having a suit on top and probably jogger.
And
Yeah.
has responded comfortable also.
Yeah, yeah, very comfortable. So that says a lot. Oh, one more.
And Siraj says, working from home is comfortable and easier, but I believe communication is not the best efficient.
Yeah.
Here, most definitely most comfortable. Rich Jana, most comfortable, but when I have meetings, I have to wear the right gear. Yeah.
Yes, but again, the right gears means up this part of the screen, right?
Exactly.
How it look like. So when we oh, we've got one more, Nihal.
She just responded correct.
Okay, which is true. And again, the same thing for me. One more.
Oh, and Anita has said most comfortable yet professional if you're online. So basically, yeah, same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So still comfortable, right? When the government announced resuming work and 50% to start going back to office, a couple of my staff called back saying we cannot get into our clothes anymore. So I was like, what clothes? One of them is an Emirati. He said, I cannot get into my abaya. So can I come the following week? Are you okay with that? I was like, yeah, okay. And I don't think you've gained that much of weight during the last 3 months. She was like, no, I'm actually pregnant and I've automatically grown bigger. So I look different, and I've never worn an abaya since this whole thing started. So that explains that people even started changing their probably shopping habit. Like for us, not really probably ordering or buying more abayas. For gents, it will be more about suits and official clothes as well. I think my audience would agree with me. So starting a new era of wearing comfortable clothes, working remotely. There were lessons learned during this time. For example, the denim sales have actually fallen behind since the beginning of the pandemic, because the trend been buying more comfortable clothes, and jeans is not really considered comfortable while working from home. So Levi announced a 60% drop in the second quarter of drop in revenues in the second quarter of this year, which means cutting off around 15% of their workforce. Meanwhile, athleisure retailers like Lululemon are really getting an increase when it comes to demand on leggings, joggers, and sweatpants as well. So it says a lot about the change from very official clothing to what is the most comfortable, what do I need while being at home. So more of comfort. Now again, working from home, giving your best in your most comfortable clothes says a lot about the journey that changed from very official, checking in and out to an organization, getting stuck into traffic, finding a parking, and then heading to the office. Now we need to understand that all industries will have to adapt to this change, and they have to be part of looking what really is the new demand and how can we work around it in order to provide their customer with what they really need rather than what they were actually been set up for. They will have to be very agile on moving around and supplying the right goods, the right services as well. Kodak is a great example, and here I would like to share with you what Kodak have done. We all know them; they are into camera and film industry. What they have done recently, and to ease America's reliance on foreign supplies, they've actually repositioned their factories to integrate generic medical pharmaceutical. That says a lot about them being very agile and moving at the right time. Now, going back to adapting to the new change, speaking of collaboration, agility, building flexible business models, and as well diversifying product and services. Because I believe this change will continue to impact us, the way the service industry service us as client, and what is expected on the other hand, and that actually a different combo that we haven't seen before COVID-19. This is different. COVID moving to pharmaceutical, and again, speaking of Lululemon, again, their sales are picking up because people are moving toward comfort clothes. A lot of things that we haven't seen, and that will always try to answer the question: when are we going back to normal? How will the new normal look like? One point I missed mentioning here, talking about Kodak in the US and how they have supported their government. In the UAE, we've seen a lot around vertical farming, and the UAE investing over $100 million in indoor vertical farming, again, to ensure that we are dependent, that we are resilient going forward. Speaking of working from home and being agile, ensuring flexibility, that cannot happen without having the technology as our backbone. I'm sure that all of you probably attended more than 20 conferences on digitization, innovation, and then automation, and so many, I would say, products were available in the market talking about things. But according to Zurich, estimated that we have capital forward 5 to 10 years in fast tracking automation. So now it's a must. We are there already. You either make it or you are out of the business. This technology is the key. We've seen it with Ittisalat, and I'm not sure who uses Ittisalat or do here, but we've seen a lot of change and impact happened from their side in order to accommodate all the consumer requirement from homes, talking about the education moving to home and employees as well, and all businesses being operating remotely. So they will see their broadband and VPN increase during the last 4 months. And it was an effort from Ittisalat and to ensure business continuity from their side. So that again, going back to the agility and how much the UAE invested to have such a platform ready for such crisis. Moving to technology, and now mainly talking about HR and how they look at talent going forward. LinkedIn's Global Talent Trends 2020 report found that 73% of companies surveyed found that talent analytics is a top priority over the next 5 years. So for human capital, data analytics is key now. It's a priority for decision making going forward. And again, I've attended over 20 conferences talking about it and having so many tools to be embedded in the organization. Now, even after attending all of these conferences, you will have leaders that will accept having such, I would say, transparent dashboard available for everybody to access. And some people loved the old way of working because this is what really worked for them. But now clearly it's a must that we shift from where were we and how we look at talent going forward. What do we really need going forward? To attract and retain digital savvy young workforce who can adapt to the changes, be highly resilient, come back and change things rather than saying, well, this is my JD and I cannot go out of it. This is how I operate. I was hired for this job. So tip for all staff, well, basically you have to upskill yourself, upskill and reskill and be part of this change. Be chasing a particular growth that you see happening around you. One of the great examples in terms of people who adopt the change and recover really fast, I can tell you about Amazon and Google. And again, thanks to all the consumer, due to the increase in e-commerce, they've adopted quite quickly, and they have started hiring more, I would say, more associates to cover all the demand that happened during the time of the lockdown. Unlike the other businesses where we have seen clear layoffs happening. So these are two great examples. They've actually, they're into technology and they bounce back quite fast. Last but not least, and speaking of employee working from home, pandemic out, and then digitizing everything, we cannot really forget that employees are connected to their employers. And for an employer, employee health and well-being is a priority. This is how you make business. If your employees are productive, happy, and willing to give more, you take care of them. I've seen a lot of cases during the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months, where people used to call human resources hotline and talk about feeling really emotionally strained, not having their family around them. And we know not everybody got their family around. So missing the support system really impacted them. And I don't blame them. Being locked in a lockdown for so long really impacts. If you cannot connect with people that you love to connect with, you cannot even travel due to the borders closure. However, Zoom meetings, and just like today, and MS Teams brought a different life for each and every employee who's working remotely. So what we have seen, and I would like to remind you of one of the minister, Her Excellency Rima Al-Hashimi. And for those who haven't seen the video, there's a video of her giving a speech in a conference, and then her son is coming for a hug. It says a lot. We've never seen ministers' children, but now seeing it live, and the way she reacted, like a typical mom, she smiled and she's like I'm busy now. But again, that gives us that sense of community with people. You start feeling for them, you start understanding, you start seeing how their houses look like, how and what. You connect with them at a different level as well. One last survey that was conducted by IBM. 79% of employers said that they are adequately supporting physical and emotional health of the workforce. That's the employers. Meanwhile, only 44% of the employees says the same. So we can see a clear disconnect if we keep surveying other companies out of IBM. And here comes the role of HR to address disconnect. What is really needed to happen? So human resources official will have to be very smart, coming up with different solution to address these gaps, be it with the line managers themselves or with the employees. Again, speaking about connecting virtually with, be it students with their teachers, with the whole education now happening from home, or employers and managers. Again, it brought that authentic personality. You see the person, it's very authentic. It's different when you are outside the office. So it brought a lot of emotions as well with it. A lot. I've seen children attending their online classes on their costume because they no longer feel that putting on uniform is what they really want. For them, comfortable is being into a butterfly costume one day, the other day being an apple and being a princess. So that's what brought in, I believe, authenticity to their personalities. And speaking of 6 and 5 years old, and that's what made them probably deal with this whole thing, not being in class with their friends, having a sandwich, waving goodbye to their parents when dropping them. So a lot of connection happen virtually. And now as we keep working virtually, we can clearly see that overall the COVID-19 pandemic illustrated inseparability between human health and organizational success. Before I conclude, I would like to emphasize on one point, that is the pandemic offers us an opportunities for companies and nations alike to come back and to build back better. Thank you for your time today, and I hope I've added something to you today.
All right, great. So that was a lovely, lovely session. Thank you, Aswa. Now we can take in any questions. There's a Q&A tab, or if you want, you can type it on the chat. Have to. Oh, there. So you already have some people coming in and saying thank you. You have one from Ritjana. She says, thank you so much. Great points. She's complimenting you.
Thank you.
And so did Floyd. Floyd says, thank you, Hessa. Amazing webinar. Siraj as well. Thank you. It's a lovely session.
Shukran, thank you.
And actually, I had a question regarding data analytics.
Yes.
I really wanted to study data analytics, but I find it over here in the UAE, they don't really have it yet, data analytics. That was my...
I think now they already have it, right? Now they can't live with it.
Really?
But when you talk about data analytics, what exactly you're asking about?
I mean, to study it as a course, I remember when I first finished university, I was trying to find data analytics to study over here, Yeah. I couldn't find it. So is there any other thing, that's almost corresponding to data analytics that you know of, that is almost a similar course to take, or maybe a minor to take?
Normally staff who chooses to start working on data analytics, they've actually have studied MIS. So management information system, and that's where they start from. So you'll have finance graduate who specialize in MIS management information system, and from there they start moving into all the analytics part of it. Now it's easier for the finance because they will start cracking all the numbers and then drawing the linkage as well. So that is the beginning. Maybe that's why you didn't find it.
Yeah, that's why. And a lot of people were telling me a lot of different things. That's why I was like, maybe economics is similar to it. So
hey.
I chose economics now. So I'm currently studying economics. Okay. So we've already got a couple questions coming in from Aisha Al-Bastiki. So she's asking, my question is regarding mindfulness practices in organizations, and how can it be encouraged as a practice to deal with stress and uncertainness, especially during such times?
Okay, shukran Aisha for the question. Now, well-being is critical to sustain operation, and we've seen Her Excellency Ahoud Al-Roumi talking about it for the last few years, certifying officials from either private sector or government sector into happiness and well-being to ensure that UAE is a happy country at the end of the day. So we've seen a lot of efforts coming from the government and self to instill the same thing across all organizations. We've also seen recently, Aisha, and I think you're also updated when it comes to the changes happening in healthcare. Now having everything online, you can ask a question and you can get a prescription and everything is being embedded now within the operating model with the organization. We all know that employees' well-being and happiness, I will have to add happiness, is really crucial for organization, for any organization success. So they will have to have it. I mean, either you catch up with the trend and be part of it and ensure that your employees are aligned, or probably you won't be there anymore after some time. So it's something that you have to have. It's no longer optional or luxury. I hope I've answered your question.
And then you've got one from an anonymous attendee. What do you believe to be the future of travel and aviation in the coming few months until the vaccine and after the vaccine?
Oh, okay. Speaking about aviation and the whole travel, we've seen the UAE efforts, and we've seen how UAE actually adapted to the change. So the only thing I can say, we've seen all what they have done from terminal to air. We all heard about the dogs, finding who's COVID-19 patient and who's not, the heat mapping, sanitizing the aircrafts. We've seen all of these efforts, which means the UAE is adapting quite well and very fast compared to other parts of the world. And I think that is the answer that I can answer your question with.
All right, so moving on. Abir asks, what do you think an important skill new graduates and senior students need to consider with the current pandemic?
Okay, that's a good question. Abir, صح?
Yeah.
All what I'm thinking about, just go with your passion, whatever your passion says, follow it, but remember to be agile. Make sure that you are agile when things like this happen. When changes happen, you will be there to adapt the changes. But when it comes to a course that you would like to study, just follow your passion, whatever you like, just go for it. But always remember that you will have to adapt to changes. You don't know what will happen next. We've never foreseen pandemic happening, right? I couldn't believe it till the last minute where we had technically to leave office and they say, that's it, you're operating from home. End of story. So even I couldn't believe it or digest the new idea of, I've always wanted to work from home, but probably somewhere in Hawaii or somewhere else, but I got locked at home. It's completely different. Now, being able to be resilient and try, I would say, to be agile as possible. However, when it comes to studying and courses, just go with your passion, whatever you like, and it will all start from there.
All right. So the next question you have is from Rubina, and she says, thanks, Hessa, very informative. Please share some tips for staying happy in this situation.
Staying happy. Well, the one thing that kept me happy is having Cheetos during the lockdown. Yeah, Cheetos and more exercises. One thing that connecting with family will always make you happy. Now, it depends if your family are basically here with you or abroad. Again, virtual connection would actually happen. Videos, talking to people that you really love. That's what brings happiness. What brings happiness to me is playing with my cousins. They're between 6 and 10. So they are the princesses and I'm the one working for them. So I'm not sure when I'm going to be the princess, but I accept the role. Mm-hmm. Again, that brings happiness and peace to me. So I think we all have different way when we go through, I would say, emotional, I would say, when we're actually strained when it comes to emotional feelings and the way we deal with this pandemic. We respond differently, we're raised differently. So I think just go with whatever makes you happy, whatever brings peace. Meditation is one. That also brings a lot of peace when you start practicing meditation, yoga, and all the breathing exercises. But for me, playing with them makes me really happy, and I forget about office. So that, and the whole stress on what the pandemic actually brought in.
All right. So the next question, mashallah, a lot of questions coming in. So Rajana says, I don't know if my question was seen in the Zoom chat. Oh, it was seen, but like I was focusing more on Q&A, and then I moved to there. But I wanted to raise that the current legal framework in UAE for office space linked to trade license renewal is still not ready to accommodate the entire shift of employees working from home. So I think that cost-saving element on businesses when related to the cost of office rent is still not yet visible in UAE, at least for now. Do you have any more lights into this, or any measures that government is trying to undertake?
Well, not really. I don't. What we have implemented, like I will talk about the general civil aviation, again, social distancing. And keeping in mind, by focusing on social distancing in offices, it doesn't mean that you can have 100% of your employees operating from the same floor anymore, because you have service areas that are shared. So anyhow, you will have to go to 50%, like present at office, and other 50% operating remotely. So I believe every company, they're responding to this differently. But talking about trade license and stuff, I'm sorry, I don't have any visibility on that, but probably there's something coming up.
Okay, and then the next question you have is from Jahnavi, and they say, thank you, Hessa, for the wonderful session. I am super excited for the Expo happening next year, and as an Expo 2020 volunteer, I was wondering about the measures UAE is taking to make this event the grand success we are all anticipating, and what can we do better with the time the extra year has given us? Thank you.
Well, first of all, talking about Expo 2020, we know that UAE is ahead of the game when it comes to ensuring that it's a successful event. Otherwise, they wouldn't have postponed it to next year. So that is being taken care at the government level. Talking about your time today and what can you learn, I believe you should focus on a skill that you wanted to acquire a long time back and you never had the time. Again, remember the crazy days that we used to have, getting stuck in traffic, working from 9 to 9. And if you were a volunteer at Expo, I believe you just had like 4 hours of sleep every day because of the dynamic of setting up Expo. Learn a new skill and make sure that it is exactly the skill required going forward once Expo is up and running. Make sure that you are there. You'll be the first ones that got the right skill that is required. So if you were part of Expo 2020 of, I don't know, volunteering program, or you were an employee, I would urge you to reach out to their human resources team and ask them what would their future requirement look like in terms of skills, and try to work on that skill so you're ready when they are ready to hire.
Okay, so moving on, this question is from an anonymous. How will your organization ensure that the well-being of your people and the safety of your productive assets in the event of a crisis?
Can you repeat the question again, Nihal?
Yeah. How will your organization ensure that the well-being of your people and the safety of your productive assets in the event of a crisis?
Well, my organization already ensured that we were among the first federal entities that start working remotely. And I remember that was around 20th of March. And we were ready. We were just simply ready, working 100% remotely. That says a lot about agility of the organization, and I'm talking general civil aviation. And we still continue to work remotely. And that's a clear indicator for ensuring that our employee health and safety comes first.
All right. And then the next is from Mohammed. He says, thank you for your presentation. And then he asks, and later on another question, he says, how to measure happiness? Do you have a scale to measure from current year to previous year? is the new trend is to encourage happy customer than satisfied customer?
You're talking, okay, when I look at customers, I look at internal and external. I will tell you how federal entities actually operate. We follow the Prime Minister office and they conduct annual surveys that talks about everything, all angles, when it comes to happiness. So talking about well-being, mental health, employee-manager relation, and then leadership as well, leadership impact and role model. So there are 4 or 5 elements to the survey, and they survey it once, and they survey it on an annual basis. What we do from a happiness and well-being team in the general civil aviation, we do a dipstick. So we have like 10 high-level questions, and we run across different questions when it comes mainly around performance. And again, how is your manager? If your manager is spending time with you to understand what is required. So we normally dwell around the performance and how employees are feeling to be part of the organization. And again, all these results come as output of the previous survey. And then we keep building on it to ensure that we get it right going forward. And to fix the problem, if there is a problem, we acknowledge it, we fix it.
True. All right, so that was one of the last questions. Now I'm moving into the webinar chat. And then I see here that Anita has said, psychological safety and the fact that the language needs to be more human is critical now more than ever before. Thank you for finishing your presentation on this very important point. So
Thank you.
And then everyone else you've got comments from Aisha Al-Bastaki saying, thank you for the Anwar, or maybe she meant answer. Thank you for the answer, Hessa. And then Fatima also says, thanks Hessa for the fantastic webinar. And Rubina says, thanks, very nice suggestions. Samah also comments, thank you for the great session. So a lot of comments. Congratulations on this amazing webinar and thanking you for it.
Thank you. Thank you for the amazing audience. And thank you, Mina Speaker, for making me part of such an exciting event and allowing me to speak for the first time and address lesson learned from COVID-19. Thank you.
It was an honor. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And thank you also to the attendees for joining us. If you loved having Hessa on, you can always follow her Instagram handle. You can write your Instagram handle on the chat. If you can, a lot of people might want to follow you.
They can follow me on LinkedIn because I keep blogging about what's really happening or what is new, the new trends and the human capital world. So it is at Hessa Al Ghurair. You won't get lost.
Okay. Then
so that is on LinkedIn. The same thing on Twitter as well. Okay. Instagram is all about fancy stuff, food, travel, and stuff like this.
So if you ever want to get in touch with Hessa, you can follow her through LinkedIn or you can follow her on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you all have a lovely day/weekend. And yeah, thank you again. Goodbye.
مشكورين مع السلامة.
سلامة.
سلام.
Thank you.